Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello. Gosh, it's gorgeous outside, and I'm glad that you're tuning in. Maybe you're listening live, or maybe you're listening to the podcast version of this, which is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. And remember, all of these conversations that we have are brought to you by Source Solar. Go to source.solar for your source for solar. And there's over 100,000 happy customers. So schedule an appointment and have them come check out your place, your roof, and see if it's a good fit for you. And, of course, Monaco Brewing Company, our sponsor from the beginning. Kirk Bankstead's great tap room there in Madison, Wisconsin. Swing on by if you're in the area, or go to MonacoBrewingCompany.com and find out about their great beers, their wines, coffee, and sodas. And they've also got great T-shirts, baseball hats to proudly display your sentiments about how things are going, just like my guest, Carmen Navarro Gercone, who's wearing a shirt that says, "American is not a skin color."
That's right.
Hello, Carmen.
Hello, Patty. How are you?
I'm great. I love that shirt.
I love it, too. The only way to get these individuals to pay attention to you is
wear red.
Wear red. So
Yes.
I decided to wear red, and it's a big in your face.
Yeah.
And I actually got it at a comedy show a few, I think like 3 or 4 years ago. They had a whole bunch of them. I think the last time we were going through this, actually.
Oh, God. Wow.
Is when I got it. And I thought it was a great saying. It just rung, just struck a chord. American is not a skin color.
Well, that was because right here on the Northwest side, there was a woman at the forest preserves who was wearing, remember this, she was wearing a Puerto Rican flag,
right.
And this guy was yelling at her to go back to her country, which Puerto Rico, hi folks, is a part of the United States.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell
American, this is my skin color.
I was embarrassed, and yet it felt familiar because I grew up in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the kids on the playground at Onahan would do the, hey, get out of my way. We were born in the USA.
Yes, I remember that.
I have the scars from the kids who didn't think I belonged there. And I became a very fast runner, though.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you my embarrassing story? So they used to be physically abusive. They would beat me up. They would force feed me food from the garbage cans. And one time I was running. I became very fast. I have big quads and teeny tiny ankles. I'm a sprinter. That's all I got. Got a few blocks in me. So one day I'm running up Raven, and these boys are chasing me. And this teenage girl reaches over. There's like this off Raven. There's a sort of this triangle, this really cool little house that looks like it was built like in the 20s. It's like Art Deco, maybe 30s, 40s. She grabs one of the kids over the fence and yells for me to come back, and she goes, hit him. And here's the thing. I had never hit anybody. It was so embarrassing, Carmen. Like, I was like, just let him hit me, because this is worse. Because I'm I was like 8 or whatever. I'm like doing this. It was horrible. I'm like, just let me run. Can I just run away from him? Because this is humiliating.
Yeah, no, for me it was the opposite, because, I was born and raised in Humboldt Park. So in Humboldt Park, everyone was either black or Puerto Rican, except for the few Polish who couldn't afford to leave the neighborhood. So they hadn't left. So, the Polish church was still there and things like that. But it was predominantly black and Puerto Rican. So, I mean, the culture, we all knew each other. We all went to school. So there wasn't that issue. But after my brother was murdered, we moved to Skokie.
Oh, boy.
And, that was the first time. I don't think people understand, especially in the 80s. That was the first time I realized that all white people weren't Polish.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know, like, there were Greeks and there were, Italians, and there was like all these other things that weren't just white. And that was confusing to me.
Wow.
And
where did you go to high school?
Niles West.
Niles West. All right. Right by the Old Orchard Mall?
No. That's Niles North. They're the Vikings.
So the red and white are your colors?
Yes. Red and white.
What's the mascot?
Yes. Well, the mascot when I started there were the Indians.
Okay.
Yes, they're now the Wolves.
I don't know what we are. I don't know what Lane Tech is, because Lane Tech also dropped the Indians.
Yeah. So there was that whole thing. So we had a mascot the first year there, and then they let us keep the name. And then a little while after that, they changed it to the Wolves.
That's cool.
But there it was, the Jewish community was actually the most accepting of me. And that's how quickly it felt like home. I had a little difficult time with the other ethnic groups. Like my brother and I, like people would spit on us. Adults were sitting right there while their kids would spit on us, knock us off the bike.
Oh, man.
But, it was a little rough that first summer. But by the end, please, my favorite best memories. I love all my Niles West family, my Skokie family. I love them. It really turned out to be a great community.
I love Norwood Park. I just know that it's complicated. I was so excited. I went to last fall. There was an estate sale, and I covered up my Kamala Harris shirt because it's just my neighborhood. I know my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I was walking up the driveway, and these two older guys were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and how dumb she was and space. I was like, oh, hi, and I was like handing them pens for WCPT. I'm like, listen to my show. I'm so glad to meet you guys. How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Where were you when I was growing up, you know?
That's sad, but that is exciting conversation to hear in our Northwest Side community. And I love my Northwest Side community, but we need to have some real serious conversations. And I'm happy to say that we have been having them, but some people aren't as open to them. First of all, they don't realize that I'm from their community when they run into me in the first place. They think I'm just passing by to shop at the Jewel. So once the conversation starts, then it gets better. But I'm forcing myself still to stay positive and force those conversations.
Sure.
So.
I am. So we have a lot of great dive bars here on the Northwest Side. There's one down the street that so I was hanging out, and what's great is one of those bars that plays Jeopardy. And I'm not there enough to feel comfortable to yell out answers yet. You know? But so I was kind of hung back. I was at a table and everyone kind of kept looking over at me. And I don't really. I can float in between neighborhoods. Yeah. But then these two got into an argument about Trump. And this guy's yelling at this woman. He was like, look, I voted for him the first 2 times, but he's a traitor. What happened on January 6th? He's a traitor. She's like, my son served in the military and, we're patriots. You can't say that. And then so there does seem to be some within their own ranks. There isn't, I don't know how much of that's going to peel away. And one of the reasons Carmen's here today is she wanted to come hang out and has been calling to make sure I'm emotionally okay. Also, Karen from Chicago reached out to me. She's a regular. She has a podcast, and is on with Stephanie Miller. And she reached out, and because I woke up one morning. My social media manager and I will share posts, and I woke up one morning with death threats, like you need to be STFU, you liberal whore, it was crazy because we had one post that got like 4.4 thousand comments on it. The next one got like 12,000 reactions. And we've never had that. I've been here and I've been yapping for over a decade on different stations, and to be fair, I used to get death threats at WGN.
Yeah.
The craziest one was, you know what? Let's not give people ideas. I'll tell you off the air.
Yeah. Okay.
We had a call from the sheriff's department in Wisconsin about a guy heading here. And we were just like, yeah. Yeah.
No, I can't. When I was seeing those things, I'm like, so, I love you. We don't always agree on everything, but we do agree that being kind is at the forefront and conversation is first. And the next thing we agree on is you F with one, you're going to F with both because I'm showing up.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, that's what it is. But it's frustrating. Like I don't get it. They say that we're the ones that are calling people names and that we don't like the change and that we can't admit we lost. That's not what this is about. This isn't about winning or losing. This is about people's lives.
Yes.
It's people's livelihoods, people's lives. That's what's happening. So, yes, we get it. The election's over. But now look what's happening since then. And you want to talk family values? I think between the two of them, Elon and Trump, they have like 17 kids. How many kids?
Multiple
women. And that's what we're supposed to follow when it comes to family values.
Well, rich men, they're going to, that's how. But, and that is bizarre. I don't know if you listen to Joe Ostro with Joan. I'm sure a lot of people are still trying to get their hearts to regulate again because he was very matter of fact. And Joan led into the conversation. I mean, we are led by a dictator now. Who aspires, like the attorney general today said he is Trump's lawyer. He's not Trump's lawyer. He is the lawyer of the people. He is the attorney general of the United States. And to be threatening governors and this idea that, can you imagine? You and I have both had various types of jobs and some of them government jobs. Can you imagine, tell me what you accomplished last? I have a supervisor that oversees what I do. Do you want to check in with, what is it you want? What are you looking for? Because you don't know what I do.
Yeah, you don't know my job. You don't know what assignments I have.
Right.
Maybe my job is specifically given to me. My duties and responsibilities say this. And every day my manager gives me specific assignments.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? No.
Yeah.
But come on now. They're qualified now. Yeah. Remember? All white men are qualified. If you're a woman or a person of color, you only got it because of DEI. So, because you're not qualified. You're not smart enough. You're not qualified. So if you got your job, that's
a great point. That's the thing. DEI is not to lower the standards. It's to make sure that unqualified white dudes aren't holding every single job. Because if you look in those rooms,
you mean like they are right now?
Exactly.
They are right now.
They didn't even the black electeds who were supporting him didn't even get any roles in those cabinets. Like, well, how long? What does it take?
It's almost like they want to prove that DEI was all about people of color and women.
Yeah.
That's what they're set out to prove. So they're not going to, nobody else is going to get anything.
Have you heard of, and I have to look up some information about this, but there's a lot of talk from social media content creators about extinction burst. So it's this idea that like white men, and look, if you're angry right now about my, talking this way and talking about unqualified white men, then I might be talking about you. But if it doesn't apply to you, take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a breath. And try to hear what we're saying. And I know it sounds harsh, but the idea that women have accomplished so much, that we're not having as many babies, that we are, having a better pay now, we can self-support, we don't have to be married if we don't want to be. And the idea that people of color who, we've only been in this space of maybe gaining some ground since the 1960s.
Mind you, very little ground.
Yes.
Very little ground.
Yeah.
They make it seem like we've taken, like we're 50% of everything.
I know.
Like, come on now. Like, I didn't take it personally. I'm law enforcement. When people were saying, to abolish the police and to do all this, my thought was, okay, why are they feeling that way? Because I know that that's not what I wanted. That's not the best, but I had to understand where it was coming from and have those conversations because we want to be better. We want to do better. Right. It's the same thing here. My husband's Italian and Irish. He's one of those white men I'm talking about, right?
He's very qualified.
He is very, he'll be the first one to tell you I'm qualified because I trained him well.
There you go. That reminds me. I have to take a break, but I have questions about owning a firearm. Let's take a quick break here. We'll come back in just a moment. We're hanging out with Carmen Navarro Gercone, former candidate for Cook County Sheriff's Department, and now really working to make sure that women in law enforcement are supported, are heard, and doing the work. I know she was in D.C., so I want to ask her about that. We'll take your phone calls as well, 773-763-9278. That number again is 773-763-9278. And yeah, Steve, my husband says to stop referring to things that people could do. All right, more after this on WCPT 820 Heartland. So he doesn't know about all the stuff. I told him about some of it.
Out Chicago.
If you think of every single thing from the Supreme Court to deporting these poor immigrants who are just trying to work hard and feed their families and have a better life, to the trans community that was thrown under the bus, you just wonder, where will the hate, where will the fear end? And if you keep thinking about it, like I just mentioned, it's a nowhere street mentally.
Catch Out Chicago every Sunday, 11 to 1 on WCPT 820. This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Joining me in studio is Carmen Navarro Gercone. She is a champion of women in law enforcement. Tell us a little bit about some of the work you've been doing. I know you went to D.C.
Yeah, so I've been taking my off time, which is supposed to be to relax, and really focusing on things that I enjoy. And one of the passions is law enforcement. Obviously, it's what I did for 26 years with the sheriff's office, and then 30 years total with government service. But I never walked away from law enforcement. I love law enforcement. So one of the things is I reached out to the National Sheriff's Association because these red flag laws in other states, much like Karina's law here in Illinois, we have 21 states that have them, another 14 considering them. I wanted to make sure with this new administration that those other, it doesn't go back the other way. So it was really about educating the sheriffs from across the country. And a lot of these sheriffs still wear their cowboy hats and cowboy boots. About why red flag laws are important and why removing firearms from people in crisis and from domestic violence abusers is important. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting, considering that the keynote speaker for their opening night was the border czar.
Oh, boy.
So that was difficult. I did not attend the opening night because I wasn't sure I was emotionally in a good place for it. Like that. Right. That's hard for me. The mother of my grandchildren battled for 14 years and paid tens of thousands of dollars to finally get sworn in as a citizen.
Wow.
And she's been here since she was 5. So that was difficult, but that's some of the work is red flag law. The other thing is here at home, we have a non-for-profit called Women of the Shield.
Excellent.
And Motorola, our partners, Motorola Solutions, gives us a grant every year, and we work specifically with a community college. So this spring semester, we're working with South Suburban College. We have 8 young women enrolled, and it's a cohort program. You have to be 21 years old. You have to be interested in going into law enforcement, and these 8 young women are... we meet with them twice a month. They do ride-alongs with the state police. But it's to give them a background in a network. When I started in 1994, I was a single mother on public aid, and there weren't a lot of women.
No.
Let alone a lot of Latinas. And so it led to sexual harassment, no policies on when you're pregnant, kind of grin and bear it, keep your mouth shut if you want to keep a paycheck, and no other women to really bond with or get advice from. And so we want to give women now the opportunity to tell them, first of all, law enforcement is a great opportunity to make a difference. It's a great way to be a public servant. The second thing is all of our brothers in law enforcement aren't your enemy.
Right.
The majority of them depend on you and know that you're much better at doing the job than they are.
And you had DEI hires? What?
Oh, what?
What?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
No. Can you imagine that? I was qualified enough to run the second largest department, but not qualified enough to run the entire office, mind you. But,
So neither were they. They don't even have the certification that they now demand, but it's just grandfather laws. Anyway, that's neither here.
Yes, that's it. Mm-hmm. So we have 16 women have graduated the program. 9 of them are actively working in law enforcement now, and we're hoping these next 8 will do it. We need to save our profession. There's a new way to police. Public safety is important. But bridging that gap, because community is a part of it. Like, law enforcement's always going to be there. Instead of getting mad at the cops, take a look at the laws on the books and do something about that. Because as a mother of 5, 2 black sons, I saw my children be abused by the same laws that my chosen career was forced to. So don't be mad at us. Help us change the laws.
Well, that's the thing is that people, to your point, that's why you need to know your legislators. I was talking to somebody that I had a situation and they purposely like, oh, who's your state senator? I have to go out of my district to work with somebody who has some decency and morals. At any rate, I have a question for you because I recently met with a survivor of domestic violence, and you and I have had this conversation because I was in a situation, in a workplace-related situation, where a coworker used our judicial system to weaponize it against me by taking out a restraining order against me, and it costs thousands of dollars to defend yourself, to to show up in court and all these things. I did not like. So it's just something you like. Without it feels like when it happens to you, you're like, well, this is nuts. Like I can't believe. And because I was in a toxic work environment, they're like, yep, sucks to be you. Like they were trying to push me out too.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that this is what abusers do. And I don't know how we gather those kinds of numbers. So I may have to talk to you off the air about like finding out like how this, because then it puts them first of all financially vulnerable. I don't even know if I should be talking about this too.
No, we need to talk about it. It happens.
Yeah.
It's happening all the time. And this is the frustrating part. Like you hear all the time, women use orders of protection all the time. It's there so they get mad at their husband or their boyfriend. They use it as a tool. It's weaponized more against the victim than it is against any man.
See, no one talks about this.
And no one talks about it because they don't understand it. And every day it's used against the woman all the time. He gets to court first. He asks for it first. While he has it, she can't get one against him. So you can't do a cross. If she goes to court first and she gets it, and then he's served by the time he comes to court,
right,
and all that, if he gets served, like the system is not set up for victims still. And it's very frustrating. And that's why we continue to work, because we have to have these conversations. We have to explain there's no finger pointing. There's no blame. There's not one person responsible. It's not just the judge. It's not just law enforcement. It's not just the advocates. It's not just the legislators. It's everybody. But the frustrating part for me is that everyone continues to work in their silo, only concerned about their part in it because they need to get elected again. They need to stay employed. They need to get a grant again. So everyone has their own reasons as to why they only push so far. And at the end of the day, the ones that suffer are the victims and their children.
Yeah.
Just look recently in the last 6 months, you've had 4 women who had orders of protection killed.
Yes.
And no one talks about how that happened. She had an order of protection. Was it served? No, it wasn't served. Okay, yes, it was served. Okay, was it enforced? Were the firearms removed?
Right. Right.
Okay, why weren't the firearms refused? Whose responsibility is it to remove the firearms? And then they want to say, oh, it's up to the state. Oh, it's the local law enforcement. No one understands. Even the legislators right now who are writing these laws, and Karina's law is one that was recently passed. Good intentions, but there were already laws on the books before Karina Gonzalez was murdered, and those laws failed her. So is this new law going to fail more people? It will if you don't get everyone to the table to tell them specifically what their role is. People still right now don't know what their part is when it comes to this new law. So if they don't know how to enforce it, is the law really going to save any lives? Or are people just set up to pat themselves on the back to say, look at what we did?
Right. Yeah.
Because people are confused. Local law enforcement doesn't know what their role is going to be. What are they going to be required to do? It says remove guns.
Right.
Get a warrant and remove guns.
And that assumes that you have registration and know how many weapons they possess. Right? And that's a file somewhere.
It also assumes that the local law enforcement knows there's an order of protection out on that individual in the first place. People don't understand the database system that is used to track these orders of protection. If I live in Skokie and there's an order of protection out for me, the Skokie Police Department doesn't know there's an order of protection out for me.
Wow.
So how can it be their responsibility to remove that firearm or to go ask for a warrant because the sheriff served me the order of protection, but I failed to turn in my guns? How does the Skokie Police Department know that there was an order of protection against Carmen Gercone, that Carmen Gercone has guns, that now Carmen Gercone has been served and Carmen Gercone failed to turn in her firearms? So, but you're going to put that responsibility on the local police department? They don't know. Who does know all that? The judicial system knows. The judges know. The sheriff's office knows all the background because the sheriff's office puts it into leads. They would know if Carmen had a FOID card or concealed carry.
Right.
They have checks they can do to see if Carmen bought any firearms. But do they have the staffing and the time to do all those checks for every order of protection? And are they willing and able to communicate with the local jurisdiction to share that information to ensure that Michael Gercone is protected?
Is there a path to, and are there other municipalities like in the country or states that are doing it, that have it locked down, like have it figured out? Because there's nowhere else in the world that has the proliferation of weapons that we do in the United States. So we have to look amongst our own, is anybody doing this at a level that is efficient and safe?
So funny thing is that in DuPage County, they have a pretty good process with the firearm restraining order that was already in place even prior to Karina's law. But the state's attorney is involved in that process. Like, the state's attorney in DuPage County had committed themselves to being a part of that process and working with their local law enforcement to work with victims to make sure they understood the process of the paperwork, understood who was getting the warrant, what was necessary, who was going to go out and enforce that. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened in too many other counties. Is that conversation of them working together. It's kind of every man for themselves, which leaves the victim
unsafe.
Yep.
We're talking to Carmen Navarro Gercone. Coming up in a few moments, we're going to talk to our friends from the LaGrange. From LaGrange, it's their restaurant week, so we want to catch up on some of the events that they have coming up. I know, feed yourselves, folks. Yeah, exactly. And LaGrange is so cute. Have you been to their little downtown area?
Yes, I love their downtown area.
Cute.
Yeah,
I love that. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, and I just got the information. I will send that to Lady B in a moment.
You know that you can listen to Chicago's Progressive Talk on WCPT AM 820. Stream us live at WCPT820.com and on the TuneIn Radio app. Or you can ask Alexa, Siri, or Google to play WCPT from TuneIn. But now you have another option. We're simulcasting our programming overnight. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. on WSBC AM 1240 for a clearer reception in and around the city. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. And now overnights on WSBC 1240 AM, where facts matter.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Union Strong Chicago continues to lead the way with progressive values and in preserving democracy. Your support of the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC efforts in Wisconsin and beyond strengthens the fight against MAGA Republicans. You can now purchase progressive beers like Labor Lager, Love Wins Fruited Sour, and the Resistance IPA in Chicago at Rogers Park Provisions, Diversity Beer, Wine, and Spirits in Lakeview, Park West Liquor, Wine, and Beer in Lincoln Park, Logan Square Liquors, and Tip Top Food and Liquors in Westtown. Visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for all their Chicagoland locations. As always, no matter how bad our sports teams are, please drink responsibly.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Our guest co-host today is Carmen Navarro Gercone, former candidate for Cook County Sheriff's Department, Cook County Sheriff. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful day, and I'm excited because you know what that means? Hopefully people will go out and enjoy some wonderful food because LaGrange is a dining destination. Bring your appetites to LaGrange this winter. Restaurants are dishing up tasty and unique menus, and the 2025 LaGrange Week will offer delightful and diverse meal options at affordable prices. And to tell us more about that is our friend Dan from the executive director of the LaGrange. It's Dan Mulka, the executive director of the LaGrange Business Association. Hey, Dan, you're on with me and Carmen. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. How are both of you doing?
I'm good. And I keep forgetting that I don't like asking people how they're doing anymore. I ask them, are you hydrating? Are you hydrating, Dan?
I am, actually, yes.
Excellent. Be hydrated. Yes. Take care of yourself. First of all, tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I actually grew up in southwest Michigan, the Grand Rapids area.
Okay.
And then I moved to Chicago in 2006.
Okay.
So I'm almost done 20 years of kind of being in the Chicagoland area. I lived in Bronzeville for a while, then I bounced around in the suburbs, and I'm living in Romeoville and working for the beautiful village of LaGrange.
Outstanding. I have to tell you, I'm a big fan of Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's such. Have you been, Carmen?
No.
Oh, it's a great town.
I've driven through it. I haven't really hung out there.
They have a wonderful art landscape. Anyway, we'll talk about Grand Rapids. Yeah, we'll talk about LaGrange today.
We have to talk a trip.
Yeah, let's do that. Although you want to come to New Orleans with me next week? Anyway, so Dan, tell us. I love food, as you can tell. I'm actually going to New Orleans to enjoy some food there. But we have such great restaurants. Thank you, in the area. So tell us a little bit first about the downtown area. Carmen and I were talking about this wonderful community in LaGrange.
Oh, it's a beautiful, walkable community, parking garage downtown where you can walk kind of almost to any restaurant destination. And the great thing is, too, no matter what you're hungry for, you're going to probably find something to eat there in LaGrange. plenty of different variety. I mean, I'm just even looking at our restaurant week menus. I mean, whether you're looking for steak or burgers, pizza, vegetarian options, whether you're looking for seafood, there's a little bit of everything. So that way you can come a few times and enjoy several different meals.
Yeah, no kidding. I really, and here's the thing too, for folks who don't live, really close to the Grange, you could also take the Metro. I think there's like 2 stops in the downtown area, aren't there?
Yep, there's one that is right there on LaGrange Street and gets you to most of our places. And then there's a Stone Avenue stop as well that has a few of the restaurants on the west end of LaGrange.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the restaurants that are participating. I know in some of these situations, I used to hate, when I was younger, I hated going to a restaurant and finding out it was all prefix. And then I had one like during a restaurant week and then not like a long time ago. And it was one of the best experiences I've had in my entire life. So tell us what the restaurants have planned for us.
Yeah, and there's several different prefix and there's some different other kind of single menu options as well. But I always found the prefix menu is the good excuse to have dessert because you always forget about that.
All right, I'm sold.
Have that dessert.
Sold.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're looking at a little bit of everything. We have Marco's Kitchen. We have Mana. Mana's probably the newest restaurant kind of on the scene. High-end Greek food, which is amazing, and they have some different items as well. They have a beef fillet skewer, some lobster, and some of these names I probably should have pronounced before I got on the phone with you.
Welcome to my club.
But, Marco's Kitchen is one of our restaurants as well. And, you have a choice of lamb chops or filet medallions, pan-seared duck breast, mahi-mahi. I mean, even if
we're
you're
not
just
distracting
looking for
you with all the moaning, are we? We apologize. Like I'm drooling right now. As you said lamb chops, and I had to close my mouth.
Do you make? I make noise when I eat. Sometimes even like a little growl.
It's like, I know. Mike's like, okay, you sound like you're 90.
Well, and it's funny. If you walk into a restaurant, you can tell how good it is by if you can hear the other conversation, or is everybody just doing that same noise? Like, boy,
yikes!
And like we have Palmer's Place, for example. Half-pound burgers are on special, and they have a few different varieties they're offering. We have one of our pizza places. If you're just saying, hey, I want to bring home a pizza for the kids, you can do that. You can pick it up there and take it back.
I have a question. I have a question from a listener. Yeah. Our friend Mike asks, do you have any vegan restaurants participating, or can you recommend one in LaGrange?
I would say the first one that comes into mind, and there's a lot of our places have some different vegan options, but the first one comes into mind is a place called Prasino. And for example, they're doing a Thai yellow curry with tofu as one of their specials.
Sorry,
and, they have a salad. They do have a salad that kind of comes with that. So that's kind of the first thing that popped into mind. But
Carmen's pulling up pictures of the restaurants and their food.
Oh, the food. Sorry. I said, oh my God, look at that burger.
Oh, and there's just some of the things, too, when all of a sudden you're trying to do the marketing for it, and, all of a sudden you're getting starving and trying to find a different picture.
Yeah, do they treat you to a tasting menu while you're going to talk about these things with different groups?
Unfortunately, I haven't quite figured that part out yet.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to do this for 10 days and walk everything off.
I hear you. That's fantastic. Yes, when
I did my best. I was going to say I did my best on our website to mark kind of the vegan options as well. So hopefully that's a resource for everybody, whether it's vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free. I did my best to try to mark what may ever kind of work for everybody.
Just a quick search. There's a website for my friend Mike that's called happycow.com, and you can search for vegan and vegetarian restaurants with the neighborhood. So in LaGrange, also on the list for Restaurant Week, Adake Ramen. It's on your list. Mm-hmm. Dan, that has vegan and vegetarian options.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm kind of flipping through even kind of like our Barrel House Social.
Yeah.
Actually looks like they have kind of a salad and some other options. Vegan. Ooh, as I'm stopping and be like, I forgot about that place.
I love it. We're all getting hungry together. I love that.
Oh, yeah. And the nice thing is whether you're, I would say, and I used to be kind of a simple eater or, you have that refined palate, there's going to be something for everybody.
That's fantastic. And for folks who want to know, it's running starting on February 27th through March 9th. And you can go to lgba.com. And there's also social media posts, so you can stay up to date on what restaurants are offering and what people are enjoying. Follow them on Facebook. It's the LaGrange Business Association on Facebook, LaGrange Biz on Instagram. And Dan, so this is going for 11 days. What's how long has this restaurant week been going on in LaGrange?
To be honest, I actually don't know the answer to that. It's been going on for a number of years. I want to say it's in the 20 or 30s.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because I remember my first restaurant week was like in the late 90s. So these have been around. That was X Capuzalco was my first. That was the prefix menu. It was amazing. So and this is what I want folks to know is going to a community like LaGrange and maybe restaurants you've never tried. I mean, like how fun to develop new memories and support restaurants. Because the idea behind this is it's a little bit slow after the holidays. It's wintertime. It's going to be warmer out, folks. Get out to LaGrange, right? Yeah. This is good. Also, window shopping weather for folks in LaGrange, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially if you jump off the train or, we have easy parking as well. You can kind of, do a little browsing as you're working your way to the restaurant.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love it. This is also going along with what Patti said. This is a way to really even instill in your kids that their community is larger than just their neighborhood. So your neighborhood, that's where you put your head down at night. That's where you sleep. But your community is all these other places. And what better way than a restaurant week somewhere else instead of, that's I love LaGrange. I love food. But I'm stuck on these menus. I'm looking like I already know what I'm going to eat at the Barrel House because they have, for starters, this white turkey chili I'm looking at, gluten-free. I'm like, oh, my gosh, that is delicious.
And what I can say, especially at Barrel House, I had this happen to me last week. Your kids may steal your dessert, so just be prepared.
Yeah, they know better than to do that, man.
That's amazing. Well, is there anything you want to make sure folks know about Restaurant Week? Because I hate feeling as though I might have left somebody hanging.
No. I mean, we've actually upped it now. We have 23 restaurants, and I would say, come early, come often. I mean, whether you're grabbing lunch or you're sitting down for a nice meal, there's a little bit of something for everybody.
Outstanding. Well, folks, get out to LaGrange, enjoy Restaurant Week, try something new. Or, folks in LaGrange, maybe you're like, I've done. No, go enjoy. Go join community, hang out with your neighbors. And again, restaurants are really, for me, like restaurants are where I have so many memories of, celebrating and having great meals.
Yeah.
Make some more memories with Restaurant Week in LaGrange. Thank you so much, Dan. It was great to meet you or talk to you. Maybe I've talked to you before. I forgot. I apologize if we have.
Nope, I think this is the first time.
Oh, excellent. Then I look forward to talking to you again.
And we'll run into you, I'm sure.
Thank you both so much.
My pleasure.
Oh, yeah. You're going to see me putting on the miles, but let alone I'll be earning them with every calorie.
I hear you. I gotta start doing yoga in the morning or something. Take care, Dan. We'll talk to you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Let's take a break here. Thank you. We'll take a break here, and we'll get to our phone calls. I know some folks have called in. At 6, we're going to talk to Dan Schaefer and find out about all things Wisconsin, and continue our conversation with Carmen Navarro Gercone, former candidate for Cook County Sheriff. And it's Women of the Badge. Do you have a website or social media?
Women of the Shield. I'll bring it all up and share it. Absolutely.
I apologize. Women of the Shield.
No, don't apologize. No.
Sorry. All right. Thank you. Let's take a break here and continue in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
I want to thank our listener, friend of the show, for informing me. We were talking earlier about the mascots at Maine West, where Carmen Navarro Gercone graduated.
Niles West.
I've heard it both ways. Niles West. I get so confused because it's Niles, because there's the Maine's the West. So it's some are in Skokie, some are in Park Ridge, right? There's a Maine something right? Isn't there one in Park Ridge on
Maine South? There's Maine East. There's
What is Maine like? What's the tie to Maine in the first place? I mean, Niles I get because that's over
Maine Township.
Is it Maine Township?
I think it's Maine Township. Okay. That's the tie, maybe.
I don't. Is it another municipality layer on top of the town?
Des Plaines, yeah. Because I've heard of
See?
Yeah.
I put something out there that I really shouldn't have.
Well, no, but things in borders and stuff change all the time.
Yes.
And maybe they just didn't change the names.
That's right.
It's been a long time.
So our friend texted, because I couldn't, your mascot changed from the Indians to the Wolves.
Correct.
And we changed just recently. This is only a couple of years ago, from the Lane Tech Indians. And our friend from class of 90 says we are now the champions, the Lane Tech champions. I thought Warriors would have been okay, but I guess it was kind of close to, it was, I'm sort of in the middle, right? I actually wrote a piece in our newspaper. I was one of the writers for our newspaper, and I wrote about how other schools, and what year did they change it from the Indians? Because I might have written
I graduated in 90. So they got rid of the mascot in 86.
So I wrote about your school. Because I was talking about how maybe it's time to think about change. So it would have been 1988 or so that I wrote a piece for the Lane Tech Warrior. That was the name of our paper. That maybe it was time to think about it. Right, to think about changing the name. And so it was kind of a back and forth. And then online, now that we had social media, people were getting nasty about it and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, a friend of mine, Gretchen Meyer, was very vocal about how she thought we should change it. And I was really proud to know her and have gone to school with her. Anyway, so but I'm very excited. We were just talking about food, and then my fellow alum owns a brewery in Niles that we now that we have to go to.
That we were very interested in.
Now I need to know how to pronounce the first part of this. Une Ani. It's Hubbard's Cave, and you and I were on the menu going, "Oh my God, look at that barbecue! Come on now!" And that hazy IPA looks. You gotta love any barbecue that serves macaroni and cheese with their food.
Yes,
come on now. And
so now this is an open invitation for anyone who thinks that there's a location that Patty and I may enjoy or want us to. Just let us know. We'll be happy to.
Yes, swing by
and do some.
Yes, we have to do some reconnaissance. So this is it's Hubbard's Cave is a part I can't pronounce. Une Ani, and it looks amazing. And they also have they've got pub trivia. They got pub trivia. They've got a happy hour from Monday through Friday, 2:30 to 5:30. I believe I just saw.
That's what it was. That's why we said they
have live music on Sundays.
I'm not working full time right now, so I can make happy hour.
This looks great. You know who we need to call is get Jim out to happy hour with us one day. Jim in Chicago. How are you doing, my friend?
Hi, I'm very happy that Cash Patel is the head of the FBI.
Yeah.
When I look at his qualifications, he's got a literary masterpiece that he wrote, a children's book. It hasn't been barred. Apparently, it'll stay in the libraries for ad infinitum. But it's got Trump as king, and he is the wizard that protects him. And then he's also a director of that fabulous movie, The 500 Mules, which is a masterpiece.
Yep.
And then he picks as his director, as his understudy, some character named Dan Bongino, which I had the unfortunate experience once of coming across him on the radio. I'm like, well, he's insane.
Yep.
So this is a perfect choice for law enforcement in the United States of America. I'm sure that we'll get fair justice here under these two characters.
It's insane. It's absolute madness. Yeah. Well, and well, here, let's ask Carmen, because Carmen, you've worked in law enforcement. When someone becomes, and I guess that kind of did happen, when somebody who's never had the kind of experience that everybody that's going to serve beneath them, if they haven't been in the field, how frustrating is that for?
So it's frustrating first for the boots on the ground, so to speak, the people that do the job every day. And even the people that do the job every day, those frontline people, they don't necessarily expect someone in that high up position to be fair. They're more of an administrator, but you still have to know what you're administering. You still have to understand what the job is, how the job is completed, how it's assigned, how to motivate, how the policies and the laws affect how people want to do the job. You have to understand and get all that. If you've never been in that position, you have no business leading them. And, to say, well, he's got some experience. Look at who he is not qualified.
No, not at all.
Anyways, come on, the country's in chaos. But Carmen, my uncle was a homicide detective for years. He ended up as a wax commander for Chicago. And I got the best advice in the world from him. He said, Jim, whatever you do, don't get caught. Anyway, you guys have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, Jim. And Ron, you calling from California? How you doing?
That's right. I'm doing pretty good. Hope we're all doing good. I've been looking at Mr. Musk for a bit, and just been curious as to the question of what happens when he's awarded all the government contracts for the people he's actually dismissed from their jobs. Does he rehire them, and does he make money on both ends? But my concern today was that he got a contract for FAA aviation for his Starlink satellite, meaning that he would have control of that position. To me, it's like the man with the button. How many government contracts will he get in the future?
Right.
Now that he has all the information on you and I and every business, that anyone that's had communication with, also government communication, those files, that he's having access to. Is he copying them?
Right.
Does he have them stored personally? Has he put them aside for other government agencies to look at? Where's that information? If he's now taking on more government contracts, he's awarded favoritism, cronyism. That's the government we have at this point. Where are we going to go? He basically can be dismissed by the president any day and still have the power that he's accumulated. And with the government contracts, he'll have not only oversight, he'll be the man with the button in control of the process of not only government in relationship to knowing, but also all those processes of government contracts that support the government's programs.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah,
We're creating a world power.
Yeah, I'm convinced that's what this was about in the first place. It's not about doing the best they can or following anything they've truly believed in for the next 4 years. Or delivering, quote unquote, what the people asked. It's about making money as quickly as they can in the next 4 years. That is what all of this is about. I'm convinced. I think that's what the most frustrating part is. They're setting themselves and their people up to make money so that when this is done, they're going to continue to make money hand over the fist. And it doesn't matter what's happened to the rest of us.
Well, that's true. But the thing I am gradually and most immediately concerned with is that it's not just about money, because as the richest person in the world noted, that he has money, he's making money, he'll make money. It's not just money, it's not just a dollar, it's medium of exchange, and more importantly, it's power, it's the influence that he has. And that influence is not just in the U.S. when he has that manipulation, it's anywhere in the world, because they will know that no matter who is running for office, who's in office, that Mr. Musk will be the man with the button.
Yeah. Scary thought to think that that's what we came to, and that's what we came to.
Yep. And
well, we can stop them when we can. Let's do it. Let's gain. I have a good friend, the former president of the National Association of College Admissions Council. She lives in New Jersey. She said to me, Ron, we've got to get together. What we're looking at is youth is coming together, and us seniors are. We're doing our bit. In between, those working people need to get their head on to make the move, because they are the last source of public power that needs to generate. We're in the midst of something that we can win out, that we can make the nation what it was intended to be from our own belief system. I mean, I'm 82 years old. So I grew up basically the 40s and 50s, and I saw a comfort zone. I believed in the things that were told, and when I got a little older, I realized that human beings all have personal purpose in mind as well as what they're doing.
Right.
But their purpose had dedication. Those people need to come forward. The Republicans who had at least purpose in mind that had to do with their jobs, their task, and pride, they need to step out of their shell and get back to being human beings.
You need to take that entire speech on the road, because you just gave me the chills. That is exactly that sentiment is it's beautiful. It's positive. That's what we need to be fighting for. You need to put that on a T-shirt.
I agree.
Look, from one year to the other year, that's what we need. You have the vehicle. You've got power right there in your hands to do what you need to do, that what you want to do, that you're saying that you need to do, that I need to do, that we all need to do.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God, well said, my friend. Take care. Have a great night, Ron. Let me get. Also, somebody had messaged there's going to be a PSA. Indivisible has organized a rally for tomorrow. What day is it? For Thursday the 27th at noon at Federal Plaza to protest the Doge Bags disassembly of CFPB, which is a consumer Fraud Protection Bureau. Was that what it was?
I'm doing.
Hold on, I had it a minute ago. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That was CFPB, which they dismantled, which really was restoring millions of dollars and protecting consumers from outrageous fees from banks, from fraud. And that's the thing, too. Everyone's saying, oh, well, he's doing, to Ron's point, or your point, that he's doing what I wanted him to do. I voted for him to do this. They're finding fraud. Has there been a single charging document?
No. And you won't see one. It's just, but they believe it.
I know.
They do believe it. I'm reading these posts, even from people that I worked with and people that I know, and I'm like, I thought you were smarter than that.
Mm-hmm. I know. Let's see. So let me get to one more phone call before we go to the break. Let me get to Steve in Des Plaines. Hey, Steve, I've got about a minute here. What's on your mind, my friend?
Real quick, I'm kind of like alarmed. We have a tough fight ahead of us. Is it true that in the state of Wisconsin, in the bill, they've got a gender-neutral language amendment in their bill about replacing the word mother with inseminated person and a number of other things, it sounds insane to me. I talked to somebody. It seems to be true. Can you elaborate? Or do you know?
We have Dan Schaefer coming on next. He's the editor and publisher of the Recombobulation Area. He covers all things from the General Assembly in Madison. Mm-hmm. So I can ask Dan right after the news.
Yeah, because if it's true, talk about shooting ourselves in the foot. Come on. Come on.
So you're saying Democrats have drafted legislation in Wisconsin?
Yeah, apparently Tony Evers, his name. There's a person I can't stand in my family sent me this, kind of like, see what we're against. And it's Tony Evers. It says Wisconsin bill with gender-neutral language changes. And then it has a list. Mother's going to be inseminated person. Father is biological father is the natural parent. Wife or husband is a spouse. And so on and so forth.
Well, I think for some of that, I would say, some of that, I know that you're getting, the part that they're highlighting would be the inseminated person. I would need to learn more about that because it might be an element of protecting same-sex marriages and the language they use and that kind of stuff.
Legal language. But anyway, I appreciate you, honey. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much, Steve. Okay. All right, take care. Let's take a break here. We'll come back with Dan Schaefer from the Recombobulation Area. We're hanging out in studio with Carmen Navarro Gercone. I'm so glad you're all here.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us as we drive it home. I want to say hello to our friends listening in the evenings on KTNF AM 950, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. We're broadcasting here in Chicago on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. And you can listen to us anywhere that you might pick up a broadcast, like on Facebook, on YouTube, on the TuneIn apps. In addition to, of course, your trusty car radio and your kitchen radio. And we want to thank Source Solar for making these conversations possible. You can go to source.solar to find out about your path to putting solar panels on your house. Over 100,000 happy customers. I know you've been wondering about it. Maybe you talked to some other companies. This is different. Pete will walk you through the entire process. So go to source.solar, your source for solar in Illinois. We want to thank Minocqua Brewing Company. Kirk Bankstead, always stirring the pot. He has worse impulse control issues than I do, and he fights for good. So visit his Facebook page and learn more about his adventures. That's Minocqua Brewing Company. You can also go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. They've got a great hazy IPA that is called Home Away from Home, and we'll talk more about a local brewer because we need to be supporting our local brewers. Carmen Navarro Gercone joins me in studio, and
I loves brewery.
Do you love breweries? No, I was going to say, well, let me get Dan Schaefer because Dan's from Wisconsin, also a hotbed for, not a hotbed, but definitely a beer loving. Dan, am I mistaken that Wisconsin has the highest per person beverage consumption, alcohol consumption in the country?
We're up there. I think we're way up there.
Yeah, I remember like the highest drinking counties are all in Wisconsin. Like out of the top 10, there's like 8 are in Wisconsin. Something crazy. I was walking up to that Dan Schaefer, the publisher, editor, writer of the Recombobulation Area, political editor for Civic Media's political newsroom. I was mentioning this because I saw this piece about how the 3 biggest financiers, people who funded Project 2025, are Walmart, ExxonMobil, and the other one's Molson Coors. And then you go down the list of how many beers they make, including Leinenkugel. When did I'm sorry, I'm not yelling at you, Dan, but I'm just yelling. So, So I'm not buying those things anymore, and I shouldn't have been buying them to begin with. I said no, I didn't know that. Do you have a local brewery in Milwaukee that you like, Dan?
Sure do. We got a lot of good local breweries in and around Milwaukee. I worry about them right now because there's been some concern about those tariffs and what those might do to, cost of aluminum cans and all that. But my favorite in Milwaukee is Third Space Brewing. They make a beer called Happy Place. That one's my favorite. That's become my go-to Midwest Pale Ale. It's good stuff.
We just got introduced to a new one locally called Uni Ani, and I'm sorry to the owners. It's also Hubbard's Cave, but it's like a barbecue. They have pulled pork pizza, my friends.
Yeah.
What? So that seems like a place I need to take Dan
know how it
next
tastes.
time. Yes. So Dan, we got a call at the end of the last hour from a listener who said they'd heard a story about this gender neutral language in legislation, and Governor Evers is taking a lot of heat.
Oh boy.
Oh, you heard about it apparently.
Yeah. So this is the big story out of Wisconsin.
Sure have. It's been the big story in Wisconsin politics this week. There's Elon Musk is taking a wrecking ball to government. We've got a massive state Supreme Court election in just 5 weeks from today. But we want to talk about weird language in page 1700 something of the budget in a section that has to do with IVF and fertility treatments and all of that. And Republicans are absolutely freaking out about it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I figured it was something that was like for whatever specific purpose. So if it's IVF, so Elon Musk apparently, Carmen said, "Hi, Mom. I mean inseminated person," because I want to take mother out of the language. But I'll
walk you through what happened here.
Okay, please.
So on Friday, there was this news story that popped up on conservative media saying that in the state budget, in the statute in the state budget, they were rewriting the terminology to instead of saying the word woman, used inseminated person. Now, of course, I reacted like that, like I probably, like most of us would, like that's pretty ridiculous. Like, come on, who's even asking for this, And then I actually read the bill, and it's pretty much just clarifying language in a section on fertility treatments that, basically makes the language gender neutral to acknowledge the reality that there are sometimes same-sex couples who will, use fertility treatments like IVF. And so it is basically saying that, if a lesbian couple has a baby by IVF, they're not both pregnant, but they're both mothers. That's essentially what the language is saying. And it also, gives new legal rights to, other same-sex couples, people who are not married and who are, having children by way of artificial insemination or IVF or something like that. And that's all it really does. So people are very, very worked up as if there's like some broad-based change that we are no longer using the word woman in the state of Wisconsin. It is a statute specific to one certain thing.
Oh, my God.
So, this is conservative media has absolutely run wild with this story. And, the governor has been doing a statewide tour this week because he released his budget proposal last week. And instead of talking about, the many things in his budget that have to do with health care or housing or child care or education, he's talking about this weird nonsense language in the budget that really has nothing to do with anything and is more than anything else just kind of some some legalese that is being cleaned up. Now, you could have a debate on whether it really makes sense to, make the entire budget use gender-neutral terminology, or if there's another way to approach that. But I really don't think that's what this is about. I think this is conservatives getting themselves worked up over nothing to just kind of, scold some woke language that they don't like. And
it's deflection. It's deflection. It's deflection.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. For these folks who want to get nitpicky about some legislation in Wisconsin, is this still true? Because as of 2022, according to Up North News, I'm just saying, if folks want to look at the legislation in Wisconsin and not just like focus on this language that they're freaking out about, I did not know that cheating on your spouse in Wisconsin is a felony. In 1859, 1 year after you guys became a state, they made it a crime to cheat on your spouse or for a single person to have sexual relations with someone who is married, and those who break the law could face up to $10,000. I think there are probably some folks that are wearing red hats.
Yeah, I think there are probably some Republican legislators that might apply to.
Right?
So,
so why don't they take care of that? I mean, I guess either enforce it or drop it is all I'm saying. I'm going to find a bunch of laws that are still in the book. That's also, by the way, margarine is illegal in restaurants, schools, hospitals, and prisons in Wisconsin. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, that one I got to stand by.
There's a reason why they won't take that over. Okay. Anyway, I used to do this on another show. We used to go through crazy laws that are still on the book. So I might bring that segment back.
We should.
I just wanted to see, because when we talk about Madison and Dan follows these stories so closely, because there's a lot going on in Wisconsin. What's top of mind for you, Dan?
Well, really, I mean, this is a very busy time for politics in Wisconsin. Last week was the spring election primary. Today is just 5 weeks away from the spring election with another everything on the line race for Wisconsin Supreme Court. There's a race for state superintendent. There's a constitutional amendment on the ballot. The governor just released his budget proposals. There's a whole host of bills making their way through the legislature. It is a very busy time to be covering and following politics in the state of Wisconsin right now. But I think everybody recognizes that the big item going on right now is that race for Wisconsin Supreme Court, and especially because Elon Musk is putting a whole bunch of cash into that race to back the right-wing candidate, Brad Schimmel. And so that has become really the headline item in that race. It's going to attract a ton of funding. And once again, it is a race that is going to determine which wing of the court, the liberal or conservative wing of the court, will hold the majority. And if Susan Crawford, the liberal justice, is elected in April, that will mean that Wisconsin will have a liberal majority probably at least until 2028. And I think that's pretty important because I think we're going to need some reliable checks and balances from now through 2028. Don't you think?
Yeah, just a couple. Well, and again, because so much hinges on Wisconsin, and while we lost Wisconsin, at least we didn't lose, Tammy Baldwin's seat. Hopefully, there's some folks who are peeled away from the trance they were in November and people who didn't show up to vote at all. Yeah. Because I saw some number. I think Wisconsin only needed 3% more people to show up to vote for Harris to win. But it's hard. It
was really close. Yep, Wisconsin was the closest of all of the swing states.
Yes. Yeah, because the other ones are like 5% and things like that. But it's hard. You guys vote so often. Do the Dems have a handle? They really do. It's April 1st. It's crazy.
Feel like I always,
and we do too. We have municipal races here too. But what are you getting a sense of the energy behind this, getting out the vote for the Supreme Court race and your school superintendent race, which is also vulnerable? Tell us about both of those.
Yeah, so I think, we do have some real campaign fatigue in Wisconsin right now. Every candidate was in the state for what felt like the entire month of September and October and November going up to the election. And I think, we're now right back in it with getting ads on everything all the time, everywhere. So I'm sure you're not missing that in the Chicago area. But we sure have a lot of them in Wisconsin right now. So it's the same type of really pretty awful, gross type of campaigning that we've come to expect from these types of races. But that's what it is. But this is a really big deal for so many different things. And on the right, like they are open. Ben Wickler, the head of the state Democratic Party in Wisconsin, was on the civic media airwaves last week talking about how Republican donors are openly, fundraising, saying that they want to re-gerrymander the state of Wisconsin. And that obviously is a real problem. We just finally, after years and years and years of work, got fair maps for the first time in forever in Wisconsin for the last legislative cycle. And it was kind of like a two election process to really unwind that gerrymander entirely. And now, that is at risk again. And as is, and then Brad Schimmel, who's the former attorney general at the time that Scott Walker was governor, he took a lot of really extreme stances on things. He tried to overturn the Affordable Care Act. He's got some pretty retrograde views on reproductive rights, and he too is talking about the redistricting process and criticizing the way it went down to finally get fair maps. So there's a lot to be concerned with when it comes to Brad Schimmel. So, Susan Crawford, and she's endorsed by the Wisconsin Democrats. She's campaigning hard across the state. It's a little bit of a different race than 2 years ago when Wisconsin elected Janet Protasiewicz. I feel like that one was kind of the culmination of like a years-long effort to win back control of the court. And now it's a little bit different because the Democrats, the liberals on the court are playing defense now. So I think, and now it actually starts a run of 6 years in a row that we will have a Wisconsin Supreme Court election on our spring election ballot. So this is kind of the beginning of a new chapter of what's happening on the courts in Wisconsin. It's always something. Yeah. And then we've got this really important race. It's kind of become the undercard for the spring election, and it is the race for state superintendent. The incumbent, Jill Underly, she's in her first term. She was challenged by both a Democratic-aligned candidate and a Republican-aligned candidate in the primary. So there's been a little bit of frustration with her as the state superintendent over the past few years. So I do think she's vulnerable, but this has been a race that has not really been all that close or competitive in quite some time. The last time that it was a race decided by single digits, I did some deep dives on this to look at the numbers. The last time it was really even a competitive race was 1997. And pretty much, it's mostly been just kind of public school administrators who have stepped into this role and run for this role. And Tony Evers, our current governor, was the former state superintendent in Wisconsin before he ran for governor. So, this has been an office that is held by basically a Democrat for decades. And there is a candidate now, Brittany Kinzer. She advanced in the primary. She was a former charter school executive and basically a lobbyist for a kind of pro-charter, pro-voucher organization based in and around Milwaukee. And there has never been a candidate like her running with a real chance to win in the state superintendent race. And I think it's, not unlike what we saw in the election last fall. And it's just like people might be in a situation where they're voting for change. But what that change might look like, I don't know if it's really what people might want to see, because I think, people might have some frustration with the education establishment at large. But I still think that people like their own public schools in their own backyard in most cases. So I think that one has the real potential. I think people should not sleep on that race because it has real potential to upend public education in the state of Wisconsin in a really big way.
Well, but they've been so good at tricking people into believing this school choice idea when there are so many parts of Wisconsin that don't even have access to charter schools, parochial schools. The only option is the public schools, and they need to be funded. There is no obligation for parochial schools and for charter schools to provide education for kids with disabilities. I mean, those are just the top two things. But they've been tricked, and they've bought it. And you have to be willing to believe those lies and to destroy your own public education system. It is biting off your nose to spite your face, I guess.
I guess my frustration is how many Democrats are going to stay home again? Ugh. I'm sitting in a place where I still feel like whether we're talking about Wisconsin or Illinois or anywhere in the country right now, especially with what's going on, what is our party doing to unite our party? Because there are Democrats who really feel, and I was one of them at the beginning, who really felt like we went too far one way. But no matter how upset I was, there was no way I was voting, for to the right. There was no way I was going to not vote, for a Democrat. But there are a lot of people who either stayed home or went ahead and voted that way because they wanted to change and they just could not get on board because they felt that the party went too far to the left. What are we doing to unite our party more? Are we having, because I kind of feel like to prevent and to fight and to really get through these next 4 years, and to shore up what's happening, like in these races, like you're talking about this superintendent race in Wisconsin, like people don't understand. Yes, you want change, like you just said, but this is what that change means, because the Republicans are really good at selling it like, they want this because this is only going to help black and brown. That's why they want this. It's only going that way. And that's where your money's been going for years. So then you have people jump in and saying, well, fine, I'm going to vote for this change, or I'm just going to stay home. What are we doing? Like, I kind of feel like we haven't been.
You're
doing
so frustrated.
Anything.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Like, I'm still like.
I think.
Go ahead.
So I think there's a couple things with that then. So, like, one, I think you're right. There needs to be. What I think is that there needs to be more of a commitment from Democrats and those on the left to still be the party of change, to be the party of reform. And I think the way that Donald Trump ran his campaign last year was to paint himself as the outsider, as some sort of change agent who's going to shake up the system. And I think that puts Democrats in this uncomfortable spot of being the defenders of an establishment that nobody really likes. Nobody really wants to be like the pro-establishment candidate in this particular moment. And that's what I wonder about with this state superintendent race, with the state Supreme Court race, if people are going to, because right now, again, it's Democrats playing defense on both of these races, right? Kind of protecting their incumbent advantage. Well, the incumbency can be a double-edged sword in some of these down-ballot races, especially in Wisconsin. It can really matter a lot. Name recognition matters a lot. But then you also have the element where you have people who are standing up or kind of essentially in the position of defending a status quo that doesn't really work for working people anymore, or doesn't work for, the education establishment is getting too stagnant, whatever it might be, right? So I do have those concerns with it as well. But again, getting back to kind of like where Wisconsin was in the election last year, this was a state that was the closest of all of the 7 swing states. Kamala Harris actually increased the number of total votes that she received from what Joe Biden got in 2020. There were a number of really close races, down ballot. There were significant gains in the legislature under new maps. And I think people are starting to really recognize the stakes and recognize what's happening across the country with, Elon Musk just taking a wrecking ball to the federal government. We saw a couple instances of Republican congressmen holding town halls over the past couple of weeks, or really over the last week. People in some of the reddest districts in the state of Wisconsin, and they were met with quite a bit of opposition at these. So I do think the grassroots in Wisconsin is pretty fired up. And if this race becomes a referendum on Elon Musk, which I think we're all, in this moment, we're viewing everything in the political universe as being viewed through the prism of Donald Trump's return to office, everything that Elon Musk is doing and all of that. I think that's going to be a real motivator for a lot of people. And a spring election electorate is a lot different from a presidential year, too. In Wisconsin, I think the presidential turnout was something like, close to 3.5 million voters, something like that. And then I think in, like the high turnout for a state Supreme Court race is something closer to like 2 million. So one of the things that Trump did really well with in Wisconsin, especially last year, was he was able to turn out some of these what we call the low propensity voters. So people who don't necessarily vote in every election, their midterms or city council races or whatever, or, in this case, a state Supreme Court race. And so are those people who turned out to vote for Trump going to turn out and vote for Brad Schimmel in the spring? I'm not so sure. They didn't even always, vote for Republicans down ballot. I think there was a lot of people who just came out only to vote just for Trump in Wisconsin last year. And that, obviously helped power his victory. But I think that is an important part of this to recognize. And now that we are getting down to the final stretch here, getting down to crunch time, I think people are really recognizing the stakes. And I do think there's going to be a lot of energy around this campaign, around this race over the next few weeks in Wisconsin.
Well, Fibs for Wisconsin is riding again on Saturday. I'm going to be joining Operation Swing State. So we'll be it's my first time door knocking in Milwaukee. So I might text you and see if you're about anywhere. But I know you're also busy on the weekends. And I know that you have been up for quite a while because he was hosting on Civic Media this morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. So, folks, check out all the great work that Dan Schaefer does. Subscribe to his Substack. Be a paid subscriber to support the work that he and independent journalists do. And, Dan, I'll text you on Saturday and see if you're around. Maybe I'll ring your doorbell. You never know.
Excellent. Well,
thank you for making me feel better.
I'll finally get that Fibs for Wisconsin T-shirt that I've been wanting for a while. So.
I don't even know if I have any buttons left. Everyone wanted them at the end, so I'll have some more buttons made up, my friend. And thank you so much for informing us and doing such great work. We'll talk to you again soon. Be well.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Dan. Bye. Let's take a break here. I just saw Matt in the producer's booth, and I realized I just did one really long segment, and I was supposed to stop doing that. So, but damn, you guys were having such a good conversation. Sorry, Matt. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
In Minneapolis, St. Paul, on KTNF AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and anywhere you listen to Progressive Talk. We've been getting a lot of folks. There's a guy, my friend in Massachusetts, I'm sorry, I work during the day, so I sometimes hear emails. I get a lot of emails from him how frustrated he is, both with what's going on federally, and they don't have Progressive Talk, and there's all this conservative. I mean, like we talk about flooding the zone for the last few weeks, just being bombarded by news. But the reason they can flood the zone is because they already set up the mechanisms to get that done for decades. Yeah. So Carmen Navarro Gercone joins me in studio. She's a former candidate for Cook County Sheriff, and she's with Women of the Shield.
Women of the Shield.
And tell us a little about where folks can find out more information if they know a young person in their lives that might want to seek a career in law enforcement.
Yes. So we have womenoftheshield.org. We're also on Facebook, all social media platforms. But if you know a young woman, 20 and older who's interested in law enforcement, they can sign up for our cohort program. We really work with them for 4 months. They get to do ride-alongs. They learn specifically about the job. There's an officer wellness aspect to it because, I'm a mother, grew up in Humboldt Park. My brother was murdered because of gang violence. So we're people from the community as well. And that's the important part. If we want to really, it's not about policing our communities. It's about helping our communities. It's about bridging that gap and really understanding the harm that's been done, but they still have to be safe. And we as women bring something different to the table. And, our brothers in law enforcement recognize that, and they need us. The world needs us. And so we're asking them to trust us and to build that network and come see if it's for them. This is the time to do. They're not going to know until they try. We've had young ladies who never thought. We had one that was majoring in psychology. And she actually, all her experiences with law enforcement had really been negative because the neighborhood she grew up in, and she really couldn't recall a positive law enforcement but she met us at her college, and she liked us. So she figured, I can do it. And she came in, and she's now working for the Cook County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's a wonderful thing.
Well, and you've had experience both as law enforcement and working in the clerk of the court's office.
Correct.
Right now, it does. We talk about the federal stories, and what's happening really is the big one that I think kind of caught folks off guard, and obviously the firings, just scraping whatever information they're doing. We don't know what the Doge bags are doing, but the day that they didn't, people call it like freezing funds for federal programs. It's impoundment. And it is an effort by folks from the Heritage Foundation, the Federalists. They believe that the president should hold the purse strings, right? And there was legislation crafted after Nixon tried to use the purse strings for retaliation. But so today, a federal judge indefinitely blocked the Trump administration's freeze of federal funding, and so it's indefinite. And said in the simplest terms, the judge wrote, the freeze was ill-conceived from the beginning. Defendants either wanted to pause up to $3 trillion in federal spending practically overnight, or they expected each federal agency to review every single one of its grants, loans, and funds for compliance in less than 24 hours. The breadth of that command is almost unfathomable. Which is right. Yeah, it is. All of this is unfathomable.
All of it.
Do you know that 21 people quit from the Doge team today, and they said that they were not going to let their skills, their expertise, and knowledge of the departments to hurt people, to do things that were basically unraveling the structure of our society. I mean, there's a guy who is doing interviews now. He's like, now the calls are coming from inside the buildings too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but they're going to try to silence those too.
Well, I remember, so Professor Joel Ostro was on with Joan, and they were talking about how he's, Donald is lining up with the dictators, right? And then this gaslighting that Ukraine apparently invaded itself. Well, he's the dictator because he won't have fair and free elections. When Joel Ostro reminded us that Putin has been there for 26 years, has eliminated, people falling out of windows, having their funds taken because if they're trying to be the opposition. So he has not had a fair and free election in 26 years. So what are we doing, folks? What are you doing on the right? Why is this? Is it the sound of my voice being angry because people are going to be hurt and suffer? That makes you happy?
It does make them happy.
It does.
They don't.
It's insane.
And it's not name calling. It's not anything. They are heartless and they do not care.
No.
And I think what bothers me is that some of the people that we interact with on a daily basis, that we work with, that we see every day, cannot see that. They think I'm just upset because Harris lost.
Oh
no! That's what you think. Have you not been watching what's been happening every day?
Right.
That is not. There was a peaceful transition of power. We are not angry because we lost.
Exactly. We never flipped the table when Gore lost. I couldn't believe it. Right. Like we knew that it was shady as hell when they decided to stop the count in Florida. Right. And it was so weird because Griffin is a history major in college, and he asked me to go out to lunch, and he basically was interviewing me about what was it like. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a historical reference.
Yeah.
And I said it was horrible. I remember being up, I was with a comedian at the Old Town Ale House, it was Jake Johansson. We were up till 4 a.m. You yelling about this. We couldn't believe it was happening. Because remember we were in this gray area for so long. But we didn't storm the Capitol. We didn't demand that the election was stolen when Sandra Day O'Connor whipped the votes on the Supreme Court because she didn't want to retire under a Democrat as president. right? For her own, and says she did, I mean, but that, for me, that's one of the big things that has led to this. Like, when there's no accountability for that kind of behavior and actions, then why wouldn't you want more? Why wouldn't you think, well, let's just take it all and give it to the billionaires? When you have Harlan Crow and, these folks who shaped the way, Citizens United. Right.
And they never have to stay on topic.
No.
So the minute you call them on one thing, they're like, fine, but then what about this over there? Wait a minute. Can we finish this conversation before you go on to that? Because they are not related.
Yeah.
So they're individual conversations. Let's stick to this. And the fact that people just are refusing to see what's happening, or, it's happening because Biden set it in motion. Really?
Yeah. I mean,
we're still doing that.
Let's get to some of our calls. Let's get to Steve in Chicago. You're on with me and Carmen Navarro Gercone. How are you doing, Steve?
Well, I'm moderately hydrated.
I love it.
I still have to remember. I had one of those packets I was telling you guys about with the electrolytes. It's kind of salty. It's like having a little mini margarita in the morning with no booze. So just take over. I'm having green tea right now, as a matter of fact. So spicy green tea. So from the October Cafe in Norwood Park, I bought that. So you're mildly hydrated. Excellent. I might be overly hydrated. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I wanted to take a quick jump back to your earlier topic about the legal language in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the early 90s, I did mortgage work for a couple of years, and I worked with a lot of refinance mortgages where the old paperwork would say, Steve Hickson, a bachelor, bought this property, or Patti Vasquez, a spinster, would buy this property.
Yeah, marriage certificates as spinster.
Yeah. So every time we would work with one of those things, the legal language had to be changed to Steve Hickson, an unmarried man, never having been married. Because the law recognized, things have changed. We look at things differently. We have to be aware of how the law is being updated to reflect reality. And the world did not fall apart.
No. Wow, that's you see, and that's the thing. Just take a step back. Well, here's the thing. They need that. That's what they won on was the wokeism, the gender issues, all of that stuff. I mean, it's just been that banging that drum for years. Well, remember the big thing was there were litter boxes in classrooms because kids. I can't with these. And Carmen was saying that we should not. We don't have to do name calling. They're so stupid.
They are. I know.
So
well, I
stupid.
always say with those kind of things, we have to remind people the Republicans have nothing to offer the average American. They're taking away your jobs. They're taking away your money. They're ruining your lives. So they distract you with, oh, my God, they're changing what we call a mother. No, we're not. No. But they know that will get their base excited and distract them.
Well, you know what? I was wondering what it was going to be about the inseminated person and, the language. Yeah. When I was pregnant, I remember Steve's laughing. He's like, oh, God, not this story again. So when I was pregnant with Griffin, and it was Mother's Day, Steve did not buy me anything. He did not buy me a Mother's Day present. And I was like, right? He said, because I wasn't a mother yet. Right. So to all these, so essentially I was, there is no celebrating inseminated person day, but I would have gladly have accepted any kind of gifts. So for fathers.
You had a boss.
Oh, go ahead. You had a boss?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I had a boss years ago who the biggest trouble he ever got in with his wife was when he didn't buy her a Mother's Day gift. And he said to her, but you're not my mother.
Well, I can tell you what happened in my house when my husband said that.
And what are we doing to make it up to her? He's like, yeah, she's really pissed off at me.
Yeah. What happened in your house? The same thing?
Yeah, no. So that's what he told me. So I do not get a Mother's Day gift from my husband. I get it from my kids. But he said that. Yeah. And it took him 3 days before I sat calmly enough to listen to the rationale behind that statement.
Wow.
Because I am a good person. I gave him time to listen to the rationale.
Sit with your thoughts.
I sat with my thoughts for 3 days. And so I got it. So as long as I got a gift.
And he said that to you knowing that you carry a gun.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, you would. Yeah,
good point there. That's a good point.
And seriously, but
well, thank you,
man.
Steve. I appreciate your phone call. Keep getting hydrated, my friend. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Let's take a break here, and our phone lines are open. We'll take some more calls when we come back. Hanging out with Carmen Navarro Gercone, and we're driving it home. More after this.
Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now at 773-763-9278. Driving it home with Patti Vasquez now on WCPT 820.
Carmen Navarro Gercone joining me in the studio, and the phone lines are lit up into our last segment of the show. So we're trying to be respectful for everyone's time as they wait. We have your calls are being answered in the order they were received. I really like saying that now because it makes me slow down a little bit since I talk very quickly. Folks, I got a lot of things on my mind, and I got a lot of voices in my head. This is the first one that gets out. Let me get to Roosevelt. You're out with me and Carmen. Hey, Roosevelt, how are you doing today?
Hey,
are you hydrating? Are you hydrating?
Oh yeah, I'm hydrating. I'm drinking water actually.
Good.
I had all sorts of procedures from the dentist today, and yesterday I got shingles shot.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to get that. Yep.
I got that. I got blood drawn.
Ooh.
I got bad news because my number is 11, and I'm not off the scale as far as diabetes. My number is 11. I got the bad news today because I cheat. I'm honest. And then I got the flu shot. So, man.
Ooh.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. That's a lot.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So, first, how you doing, Carmen? How you doing?
Doing well. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien. Todo chévere. All right. So you ladies had a caller earlier, and he made me think of something else. He opened up a sort of a Pandora's box. Remember the gentleman? I can't remember his name. He said he was 82, and he was talking predominantly about Elon Musk and all the stuff that he could do and all the stuff all the knowledge that he has in case Trump gets rid of him. I'm giving you a recap. In case Trump gets rid of him, that he's going to have that knowledge with him.
Right.
So what was the gentleman's name?
He was from California.
Ron. Yeah.
Ron from California.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Ron. So I want to add to what he said, and I don't know what you ladies feel about this, but being that all the Republicans are scared of Elon Musk, let's just call it, because all he has to do is slap some cash, and there goes the candidate that he doesn't want. But here's my question that I don't think anybody's brought this up. What if he does that to the Democrats? What if the Democrat sells out and says, I'll accept money from Musk?
Well,
what if he primaries?
Not just that. This is what Ben Comino screams about is all the money that Democrats also rely on to keep their positions of power. And I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is going on a book tour, and I mean, they gave speeches today on the steps of the Capitol, but they also are beholden not to Musk, but to your point, to other deep pockets that basically it seems like they're telling them to sit down and not do anything. And then, or James Carville, who's out there saying his advice to them is just to lay low and let it burn. Wait till people are all affected. And you're like, well, what if it's all gone then? How long do we wait? It's like my friend Fred Klett, really funny comedian. He said that people say that when you're being attacked by a bear, you should play dead. He was like, how long do you play dead until you are dead?
Yeah.
Right? He's like, hey, I'm dead. Why are you ripping out my intestines? Right? I mean, I don't know where it is, but this doesn't feel like it's it. Anyway, like Ron said, there need to be more people with their hair on fire. And to your point, Roosevelt, I think a lot of it has to do with who's beholden to the billionaires and the wealthy class. Thanks, Roosevelt.
Thank you. And you got other callers.
I do. No. Did you want to make another point before we go?
No. Just that. Here's a joke. This is a joke, by the way, Democrats. All you have to do is have gold bars. Remember the guy? Oh. All you got to do is remember the freezer gold bars? That's all you need. Okay. By the way, shameful on that guy. Being Latino and he's sold out.
Yep.
Never mind that he's a Democrat. So thank you very
there you
much.
Go. Thanks, Roosevelt. Let's get to our next caller, which would be Paul in Seattle. Hey, Paul, you're on with me and Carmen Navarro Gercone. Are you hydrating?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Good.
Yeah. I have to say, there was a caller yesterday, you know who I'm talking about, and he knows who he is.
Oh, about
he's
Ukraine?
a troll on the station.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
I'm sorry. I have to. This guy has finally tipped his hand. He always calls up to say like he's some kind of even-handed Democrat, although he's never said anything that would lead anyone to believe that he's a Democrat in any such way. He only talks about Ukraine every time he calls up, and he says the same thing. And I can't believe it. I was so PO'd to hear that somebody on this radio station would say that Ukraine started the war.
I know.
Like I said, I was making the joke. Ukraine started the war in Ukraine?
Right.
Really?
I know.
That's a
yeah, that one got by me, and I have to keep my wits about me, and I should have ended that faster. I was trying to get out of it because I was thrown off, and I was like, "Where's he going?" And then I realized that I was already
he went exactly where he wanted to go.
Yeah, and that's why when people get mad at me, that I'll have people message me after things like that and be like, "You don't want to debate." I'm like, "It's not a debate show. It's not, and it's not a platform for you to spread lies." To Paul's point, go ahead, Paul.
Well, he was gish galloping you with things that you couldn't fact check, like he said that Amy Goodman said this, which she did not. But there were no reports. He said that Ukraine was shelling Russia before Russia invaded 3 years ago. Yes, but there were no reports anywhere. I don't care, Amy Goodman or not. There were no reports of Ukraine shelling into Russia. In other words, drawing the attack. And then he said, "Well, Putin just went way, way too far because he only wants the Donbas province." That's where he tipped his hand.
Right.
So, in other words, you see, because if he were to take Ukraine, well, then he instead of NATO, instead of Ukraine joining NATO and being on his doorstep, well, he would take Ukraine and then he'd be on NATO's doorstep because there are 4 NATO countries border Ukraine, including Hungary, which should be kicked out, and Poland, Slovakia, and Romania. So he would be on NATO's doorstep. So that doesn't make any sense. But then when he said he only wants the Donbas province as a buffer, okay, what does that mean? What that means is the people in that province, he says they're Russian-speaking people. First of all, that's where all these minerals are. That's number one. And secondly, even if that weren't the case, if he wants a buffer, what he intends to do with the Donbas province is exactly what Israel did with the occupied territories, Gaza and West Bank. Is they did not want to have a border right with Egypt and Jordan because they thought those were their enemies. So what will the people in Donbas province be treated as? Second-class citizens. If they're a buffer, they're being used as a human shield, right?
Yeah, this is the thing, Carmen. I was trying to Paul's point. I was like, because he was saying all these things about they weren't letting Russians speak their language, and as soon as I realized that I let this guy spew these things I was like, okay, I gotta go. Yeah, you're clearly going in a direction that you want to drive this. So Paul, I apologize that I let it go on longer than I would have liked to. So thank you I'm glad you were able to vent today.
Yes, I wanted to vent yesterday, but there was not enough time. But
I had to tell you, real quick about the interview I did with the actors and Brittany Ward, who's the director of Single Car Crashes. I'm glad I didn't look too closely at their bios because Trevor Morgan was the little boy from The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Oh my gosh!
And he was the little boy, like the kid in Jurassic Park 3, like a bunch of movies. Yeah. I'm like, because I knew he looked kind of familiar. Yeah. But anyway, it was. I wanted to move on to that conversation instead of what that guy was trying to, as you said. What did you call it? Glipglash? What was the word you used in there that I really liked?
I was going to Google it.
The gish gallop. That's the one thing to another. That's what all right-wingers do is the gish gallop, and they go one thing to another, and
that's what he was doing.
And then you can't keep up with.
Yes,
it's basically that's the same as flooding the zone. You just flood the zone with lies, and you can't respond to them fast enough.
Right.
And then even if you do. And say, and you check them on a point, they'll say, "Okay, well, what about this?"
That's what I said.
Exactly.
So what about this?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. I got to get to one more call before we end the show.
Have a great night.
Take care, Paul.
Yep.
And we've got Myrna. It's so good to hear from you, Myrna. What's on your mind? How are you doing? Are you hydrating?
Very much so.
Good.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Checking on me.
Yes. Everybody healthy.
Today is Republicans Open Up Can of Worms Day. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that the federal employees don't deserve their paychecks. She's a federal employee, so she made a good point about herself without meaning to, I guess. And Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, has decided to open up a state DOG crew to find out where their waste
is. Yeah, he wants to do the same thing. He's also eliminating property taxes in Florida.
Yeah, but the thing is, the state has been a red state for 26 years. So it's his own people that he's going to be investigating.
Yeah. I mean, good luck.
So,
yeah.
Make it
Real
make
smart
sense.
people.
No one said they were smart.
Excellent. Yeah. Myrna, great to hear from you. You too. Thank you. Bye. And to the requests that we have for people, from people who want us to keep everyone abreast of protests. First of all, tomorrow in Chicago, there will be Rock Out with Your Lockout, Thursday, February 27th. Oh, not tomorrow. Thursday the 27th at noon. A rally for CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And that will be at 230 South Dearborn, right at the Federal Plaza, right here in Chicago. And you can let them know. Go to Indivisible website. You can find out your local chapter. I now have a Northwest Side one that I'm going to join, unless there are other people that show up a lot, and maybe I won't. So we'll see. I've got very complicated relationships on the Northwest Side. And then don't forget on Friday, it is don't buy anything from Amazon. Don't use a credit card. Not from Walmart. Don't go to the gas stations. Gas up. Get the things that you need. Shop local. Go to your local grocery stores. Costco's got great price on gas if you're a member there. And by the way, if you go to the Costco in Niles, you might as well swing by our new favorite place we've never been to, Uniani, Hubbard's Cave Brewery and Kitchen at 6343 Grosse Point Road in Niles. Our new favorite food we've never tasted. These pizzas look. I mean,
I went through it. My phone died. I was going through the menu.
Here, let me give you a charging cord. I've got every kind. Other than that, again, Women of the Shield.
WomenOfTheShield.org. Please look, there's a way to donate. We have a brunch coming up on March 28th. It's our 10-year anniversary. We have retired Chief Kristen Zeman, who's coming back. She was the chief in Aurora when they had that mass shooting inside that warehouse. She's coming to be our keynote speaker that day.
Excellent.
So, yes.
Let me touch just real quick. I only have like 20 seconds, but Bill is calling from Dayfield, Wisconsin. Bill, you're on with me and Carmen before I end the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Patty, do you speak Spanish?
Not fluently, but Carmen does.
I do.
Carmen, you do. So if somebody were to speak Portuguese to you or Italian, you'd understand them, wouldn't you?
It would have to be in the context. So if we were having a conversation in English and then you'd said something, I could pick it up. Why do you ask?
Yeah, the reason I'm making that point is because all of my grandparents were Slovak. And when I hear them talking about they're not letting the Russians in Ukraine speak their own language, that is a red herring in the umpteenth degree. That really got my hackles up when I heard that. Because being Slovak, growing up with that language, I can understand Polish. Right. I can understand Russian. I can understand Ukraine. That is a bunch of bull about the language. Thanks.
All right. We got to run. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Sorry, I've got to run. The show's over. Randy Rhodes is up next. Thank you, Solar. Go to source.solar for all your solar needs. Bye, Lady B. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Carmen.